Welcome to Master Your Money, Budgeting, Saving, and Debt-Free Living. I'm your host, Nate Tanner. On this show, we use the Triggator philosophy to help you build a spending plan that fits your life, build your savings and investments, and knock out debt with confidence. But today, we're talking about something that doesn't usually show up in your budget spreadsheets or your debt payoff trackers: joy. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you spent money on something fun and didn't feel even a little bit guilty? If your answer was, Nate, I can't even remember, this episode is for you. Because somewhere along the line, a lot of us bought into the idea that if we're not suffering, we're not budgeting right. We think that if we're still enjoying lattes, movies, vacations, or spontaneous ice cream runs, we must be doing something wrong. But that mindset, it's a trap. And worse, it's a fast track to budget burnout. Today's episode is all about how to spend money on fun without losing momentum, compromising your goals, or falling off the plan. We'll dig into the psychology of budgeting burnout, why guilt-free joy is essential to sustainable progress, how to create your own fun fund inside the Triggator Triangle, and examples of low-cost, high-value joy that actually align with your real life and your values. Because the point of budgeting isn't to feel like you're grounded. It's to feel free. Free to make progress, free to spend on what matters, and yes, free to enjoy your money on purpose. So if you've ever felt guilty for enjoying something small, or you've cut out every single extra and feel stuck, let's talk about why joy doesn't derail your plan. It fuels it. Let's get into it. The burnout budget, when deprivation kills progress. Let's set the record straight. This episode is not a permission slip to go hog wild on takeout, daily Amazon impulse buys, or YOLO vacations you haven't saved for. This is not a detour from responsibility. We are not saying, forget your budget, live your best life, and figure it out later. That's not Triggator, that's chaos. What this episode is a call to be honest about something too many budget gurus ignore. If your spending plan doesn't include anything that brings you joy, it's not sustainable. There's a big difference between spending irresponsibly and purposeful, joyful spending. We're talking about intentional joy, spending on things that align with your values, recharge your spirit, and keep you moving forward. So let's dig into what happens when your budget becomes all grind and no grace. The psychology of budget burnout. When we talk about burnout, we usually think of work, but budget burnout is just as real and maybe even more dangerous. Because unlike a job, you can't just quit your budget. What causes it? It's usually not debt, it's not a low paycheck, it's not inflation, it's prolonged deprivation. You start with good intentions. You say, I'm going to cut back, stick to my plan, pay off this debt, and finally get ahead. So you cancel everything. You cut the gym membership, you swear off restaurants, no coffee out, no movies, no fun. At first, it feels noble. You're sacrificing. You're serious now. But fast forward a few weeks or months, and what started as a commitment turns into frustration. You're tired. You're bored. You start questioning if all this effort is even worth it. That's burnout. And it doesn't mean you're weak. It means your plan was missing joy. Your brain needs the why. Here's something you might not hear from most money podcasts. Your brain isn't wired to live on permanent restriction mode. Neuroscience tells us that when we delay gratification for too long without any small wins, our motivation tanks. You need a why. You need a reason to keep going. You need to feel like you're making progress and still allowed to live. When your spending plan is all no, all not now, all maybe someday, you start looking for relief. And that's when hijackers creep in. It's not just about money anymore. It's about emotional release, swipe fatigue, stress shopping, fast food binges. They're not financial mistakes. They're burnout symptoms. And ironically, the thing that you cut out, joy, was the thing that could have helped you stay on track. We've all been there. We all know it's not the best decision, but it feels like relief in the moment. That's when our inner Homer Simpson kicks in and we say, just because I don't care doesn't mean I don't understand. Look, I've been there. Let me be real with you. There was a season in our life when my wife and I were all in on paying off debt. We slashed everything. No takeout, no date nights, no hobbies, not even Target strolls with no intention of buying anything, which if you're married, you know can be therapy. We thought this is what commitment looks like, but it didn't last. We hit a wall. We started bickering. We resented the plan that we had created, and eventually we broke it. Not because we didn't care, but because it was too rigid to sustain. And as the old saying goes, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and a dull budget, that's a budget begging to break. That's when we realized we don't need to spend more, we needed to spend with more purpose. We needed a fun fund. The cost of cutting joy. Let's zoom out. If budgeting is about values, and it should be, then joy belongs in the plan. Because when you cut out all joy, you risk emotional blowouts. You lose motivation. You make financial progress feel like punishment. But when you assign joy a place in your plan, you stay motivated, you feel aligned with your values, you build a financial life that feels like living, not just surviving. Triggator Triangle alignment. Here's the key. A spending plan built with the Triggator Triangle is not about austerity. It's about alignment. You still budget wisely. You still save with intention. You still pay off debt strategically. But you carve out a space for joy so that you don't self-sabotage the whole thing. And joy doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to be meaningful. We'll talk more about that in the next section, what a fun fund looks like, how to create one, and how to protect it from hijackers in disguise as fun. But for now, here's the takeaway. You don't have to earn joy. You have to plan for it. There's a difference. The Fun Fund Formula, how to plan for joy without breaking progress. If section 1 was about calling out the myth that joy doesn't belong in a budget, then this section is about building a better way forward. Let's build your fun fund on purpose with purpose. Because real joy spending isn't random, it isn't reckless, and it definitely isn't a hijacker. It's part of a healthy, sustainable spending plan. What joy looks like in real life. Let me share a couple of real joy items on my own plan. One of the deepest sources of joy in my life has always been music. As a kid, my parents gave me a gift that I didn't fully appreciate until I was older: music lessons. I learned drums and piano as a kid. In my teen and young adult years, it was electric and bass guitar. I even dabbled in acoustic, just enough to get a few dates. And singing, that's always been a part of me. So when I became a dad, I knew one thing for sure. Music was going to be part of my kids' lives. Music lessons became a line item in my plan, not because it was a need in the traditional sense, but because I know firsthand what a lifelong gift it is. Sports may end, dance recitals may come and go, but music lasts forever. Every time I hear my kids play or sing, I'm reminded that this is not frivolous spending. This is a joy-based investment. Or as Friedrich Nietzsche put it, without music, life would be a mistake. That's why it's in the plan. And it's a non-negotiable in our plan. The case for date night. Here's another one, date night. Now let me be clear, it doesn't have to be fancy. At one point, my wife and I had a jar labeled dollar dates. We pulled out slips of paper with fun, cheap date ideas. Taco Tuesday, a picnic in the park, grab and go dessert with a drive down memory lane. But no matter how tight the budget was, Date night stayed in the plan. We had learned our lesson when we tightened down so far that we cut date night. We knew it needed to be there. Because marriage doesn't mean you stop courting your spouse. Marriage doesn't mean you stop dating the person you love. That's not splurging. That's stewardship. That's investing in a relationship that's carrying your whole spending plan forward. For me, joy in the relationship is non-negotiable. So date night, it's funded. The fun fund defined. So what is a fun fund exactly? It's a designated line in your spending plan for things that bring joy, connection, and personal fulfillment. Not obligation, not survival, not what everyone else is doing. Joy on purpose. It might be hobbies, travel, creative outlets, annual traditions, game nights, concerts, comedy shows, gifts for others that lighten you up. The Fun Fund doesn't ask, is this practical? It asks, does this align with what I value? Because when your plan reflects your real values, it sticks. How to size your Fun Fund. There's no magic number, but there is a method. Start by asking, what genuinely brings me joy? What amount can I assign without compromising my budget, save, or pay off debt goals? How can I protect this amount, not just financially, but emotionally? Some people need $25 a paycheck. Some might need $100 a month. Others might save up for bigger, seasonal joy spends. The number doesn't matter as much as the intention behind it. Joy versus justification. Now here's the warning label. Your fun fund is not your I felt like it fund. It's not your bad day at work splurge escape hatch. It's not I deserved it money. Your fun fund should feel like fuel, not fallout. The moment it becomes reactive or starts stealing from other triangle categories, it's not a fun fund anymore. It's a hijacker in disguise. So protect it, assign it, name it, and most of all, use it with joy, not guilt. Triggator Triangle Harmony. Here's where the fun fund lives in the Triggator Triangle. It's part of the budget side, assigned just like groceries or gas. It's shaped by the save side, especially when you plan ahead for bigger joy goals. And it protects the debt payoff side because intentional joy keeps you from emotionally crashing and spending your way backward. It's not a threat to your plan, it's the oil that keeps your plan from seizing up. Some real talk. If your budget doesn't make space for the person you actually are, it's not a spending plan. It's a spreadsheet with no soul. You are not a robot. You are a human with passions, relationships, and a need to feel alive. So build that. Next up, we're going to go one step deeper. How you identify joy that actually aligns with your values. And what do you do when joy spending starts to blur into hijacker territory? Let's get practical and a little philosophical in the next section. Finding real joy. How to spend on what truly matters. We've talked about the need for joy and how to build a fun fund into your plan. Now let's take it deeper, because let's be honest, not everything that feels good in the moment is actual joy. Some of it is just noise. Some of it is habit. And some of it straight up hijacker dressed in sparkly packaging. So how do you tell the difference? Let's talk about intentional joy, how to recognize it, align it with your values, and protect your plan from joy imposters. The 3-question joy filter. Before you spend from your joy fund or assign a new category, ask yourself these 3 questions. Does this bring me lasting joy or just temporary relief? That caramel frappe may feel amazing at the moment, but will it feel meaningful later? Now, compare that to a planned dinner with friends, a weekend hike that resets your soul. That's lasting. Does this align with my values, not just my mood? Your fun fund should reflect what actually matters to you, not what TikTok says is trending. If you love art, assign art. If you love old bookstores, plan for it. If you love making people laugh, maybe a fun fund includes a comedy night or dad joke merch. I see you. Would I be proud to tell my future self about this spend? Not guilty, not embarrassment, just, yep, that brought me life. If the answer is yes, you're probably in the joy zone. If it's fuzzy, you might be justifying, not enjoying. Joy versus justification, a tale of two snacks. Let me give you an example. Let's say you had a rough week and you've got a little fun cash. And on your way home, you see a Krispy Kreme hot now sign lit up like a neon angel. You swerve in, grab a dozen, and polish off 3 before the car gets to the next red light. No judgment, donuts are magic. But ask yourself, was that joy or was that emotional triage? Now, let's contrast that with intentionally planning a Saturday morning donut run with your kids. You sit together, sticky fingers and all, talking about cartoons and laughing about powdered sugar on noses. Same spend, totally different experience. One's a hijacker, the other's a memory. And if you've ever driven home with $18 of donuts and a sugar crash, you've probably asked yourself, Chandler style, could I be spending any more money? Getting honest about joy triggers. Sometimes we think something brings joy because we've repeated it so often, but in reality, it's just familiar. This is where it gets tricky. So take a moment and ask yourself, what am I doing regularly that I say brings me joy, but usually leaves me feeling meh? What do I wish I had more money for, but never planned for? When was the last time I spent money and thought that was totally worth it? This isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. Try the joy audit. Grab a notebook or the Notes app if you're a digital soul, and do a quick audit. List 3 things you spent money on in the last 30 days that brought you real intentional joy. Then list 3 things that you felt like joy in the moment, but it didn't stick. Now list 3 things that would light up your life if you planned for them. The last list, that's your fun starter kit. And bonus points if you share it with your spouse, your budget buddy, or even your kids. Joy multiplies when it's shared. Triggator Triangle application. Let's bring it home to your triangle. Budget. Joy spending gets a name and a job, just like every other line in your spending plan. Save. Big joy, save towards it. That dream concert, annual trip, or creative project that deserves a plan. Pay off debt. You don't sabotage your progress with impulse buys. You fuel your progress with intentional wins. When you align joy spending with your triangle, you don't feel behind, you feel empowered. You're living your values while making financial progress. That's a win. When joy is small but sacred. Joy doesn't have to be expensive to be powerful. A solo drive with your favorite playlist, a new set of sketch pens, a $10 thrift store treasure hunt, that one restaurant that you and your spouse split dessert like teenagers again. Those moments don't destroy your plan, they anchor it. Because the point of money isn't just survival, it's freedom, peace, and yes, joy. A final thought before the challenge. If you've been afraid to budget for fun because you thought it meant you weren't serious, flip that script. A budget with no joy is like a recipe with no seasoning. Bland, boring, and easy to give up on. Because joy isn't just about buying the thing, it's about meaning. Or as Tony Stark told Peter Parker, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. Same goes with your spending. If it's not aligned with your values, it's not the fun fund, it's just a costume. Your spending plan should reflect the life you're trying to build. And the best kind of progress is the kind that still lets you smile along the way. Today's challenge, create your fun fund. This challenge is simple. Create your fun fund. If you don't have one, start by assigning even a small amount, $10, $25, $50, whatever fits your plan. If you already have one, Check in. Is it aligned with your actual values? Is it fueling you? Or has it gone fuzzy and become a hijacker? Take 5 minutes today and make your fun fund real. Give it a name, give it a job, and give yourself permission to use it, guilt-free. Because when you plan for joy, you protect your progress. Here's a bonus challenge. Do a joy audit. If you want to take it a step further, try out the joy audit from today's episode. List 3 purchases that brought lasting joy. List 3 that felt good but fizzled. List 3 things you wish you had planned for. This is your chance to bring more meaning into your spending without spending more. I want to hear from you. What's in your fun fund? What's the joy item that keeps you going? Email me at podcast@Triggator.com or message me at Triggator on Instagram, Facebook, or X. I love to hear your wins, the flops, the funny stories, and maybe even share a joy idea on an upcoming episode. If today's episode helped give you permission to enjoy money again, follow the show so that you never miss an episode of Triangle Aligned Clarity. Leave a review, especially if your fun fund includes tacos, tools, or tickets. Share this episode with a friend who's stuck in budget burnout and needs a reminder. Joy is allowed. Let's make budgeting sustainable and satisfying. Coming up next time, sinking fund or drowning budget. How to tell if your alligators are underfed. Are your alligator funds actually protecting your budget or just giving you a false security? In the next episode, we'll dive into the most common invisible alligators people forget. How to spot when your fund is too vague or too small, monthly versus non-monthly expense strategies, and how to sync it all up with your paycheck rhythm using the Triggator method. If you've ever been blindsided by unexpected expenses that weren't really unexpected, this one's for you. Remember, joy isn't what slows your progress. It's what keeps you going. Thanks for listening to Master Your Money, Budgeting, Saving, and Debt-Free Living. I'm your host, Nate Tanner. See you next time.